Hello everybody. In today's video, I want to talk about how, in my opinion, this has been the hardest version to actually save in. Now, of course, different people, they might not be as interested in the newer characters. That's completely understandable. However, I personally feel that at least meta-wise, this version has had some of the highest value pulls in comparison to previous ones, right? Because even when we look at version, 3, for example, there were only really 2 generalists. But the thing is, it was really only Tribby who was the go-to generalist, and then Cypher was just kinda overhyped overall by some specific people, because of her zero cycle capability with recording true damage. This was especially effective at the time because one of the active bosses was Flame Reaver, and Archer, for example, would quite struggle with Flame Reaver since he actually needs to kill the clones. But this wasn't an issue with Cypher, since Cypher could just record all of his damage from the first phase and the first phase of Flame Reaver, and then just bypass the second phase completely, despite completely ignoring the damage reduction, right? For this reason, Cypher ended up receiving more glaze, in my opinion, than she should have at that time period, which led to a lot of people being misled in terms of her value. In my opinion, Tribby was always the higher value one. However, in version 4, they kind of fixed this with Emble. In my opinion, Cypher and Emble are like direct competitors. Emble is also a massive upgrade for follow-up. He's also a massive upgrade for Acheron. But outside of this, his vertical investment is significantly stronger for his teams, making it actually worth to go for, and how important he is for these teams to run is also significantly more than what Cypher was able to do, because he has a high damage output. He's significantly more generalist, and on top of this, he has this special synergy with Acheron, with being able to give her an insane amount of stacks, and his synergy with the Fua team, with just being in a fast, frequent attacker, and his high level of buffs with 50% vulnerability and 30% defense shred, right? So, in my opinion, when it comes to like that type of comparison, Emble absolutely blows Cypher out of the water. Now, is Robin SP a Tribby level character? Right, like on release, this character changes everything for every team. No, not necessarily. But what I do think Robin SP is that she is a much more potent pick than Tribby in the teams that really, really want her, right? And this is just because of the nature of how defense shred works in HSR. For years and years, HSR has been quite scarce with giving defense shred buffs to characters because they know it's incredibly strong when you actually start nearing or hitting the 100% defense shred. And now that we're actually in a version where defense shred is becoming a more commonplace buff, and you can get it from multiple sources, with there being a few DPSs who can actually hit 100% defense shred, Robin SP's value in those teams is astronomical. In my opinion, bigger than Tribby's best in slot teams when she released, because it's not like she only gives defense shred. If this was her only buff, it wouldn't be that good, but she also has 20% vulnerability, and then she has like a 1k plus attack buff for attackers, and then a like 80 to 100% crit damage buff, I'm pretty sure, for allies if they don't want attack buffs, right? She has so many different buffs that are all quite universal, quite usable across many teams. The only instance, I imagine, where the attack and crit damage buffing is kind of useless is break teams. But even then, once again, she still has the fucking phenomenal up to 40% defense shred buff, and her vulnerability debuffing, and a little bit of damage boost. So, in my opinion, Robin SP is doing all this, but then not only this, she actually has Action Advance, right? Action Advance is incredibly strong. However, not only this, she also regenerates energy on this Action Advance that she uses when she gets her ultimate. Now, I don't know exactly why I've seen people saying, oh my god, Robin SP has Sunday's skill on her ultimate, he got power crept. That doesn't make sense. It being on her ultimate is actually more costly than it being on her skill, right? But I will say that despite the fact that it isn't as frequent as let's say Sunday Action Advances in lower investment teams, it is still quite valuable. And the team where she's the most valuable in my opinion, is the Saber Gilgamesh comp when you have E1 Gilgamesh. Not only because E1 Gilgamesh is providing all this defense shred alongside Robin, now making it significantly more potent, but Gilgamesh and Saber are characters who gain extra energy off of allies, either using ults or giving energy to them, right? For example, if every time you use an ultimate on a Saber team, it increases her crown stacks or king stacks, I don't remember what it's called, and it makes it easier and easier for that when the next time you use your skill, she's much more likely to just instantly regenerate all the energy she needs for her ultimate, despite being pretty far off, just because teammates are using ultimates a lot. And then Gilgamesh is the one who leeches the most from this type of thing that Robin has. And the reason for that is Gilgamesh leeches energy off of ally ultimates that are used. But if an ally's ultimate is targeting him and giving him energy regen, then it also double dips. Not only does he get the energy from the ultimate being used, but he also gets the energy that's being given by the ultimate, which makes his ult uptime significantly stronger. So the synergy that there is with Whoa on this team, as well as the sustain with, Robin, who also regenerates energy, to Saber, who regenerates energy and gets ult faster with other people generating energy, and then Gilgamesh, who double dips in it. The synergy is insane, right? I've seen recently, I believe, a 13 cost Saber 0 cycle against Plight, I believe, and that is quite impressive, right? That's really, really impressive. Keep in mind, the only characters currently 0 cycling Graphia Plight, I believe, is Cassie. I think Cassie is the only one who has a 0 cycle, at least currently, against Plight Graphia, meaning with a higher invested in Saber, Gilgamesh, and Robin team, they're actually competitive with the peaks of Mono Rem now, which is insane for those people who absolutely love these fake collab characters, because the number one downside of these fake characters has always been, yeah, their banners are permanent, which is really nice and doesn't induce FOMO, but it makes it much, much more annoying since the verticals are purposely kind of butchered on these characters outside of their E6s when it comes to Saber and Gilgamesh specifically, because Hoyo knows since there's not much FOMO being induced and their banners are permanent, it's easier for people to attain their Eidolons, and so they don't really want to award you unless you go for their E6, right? So for that reason, I personally believe that this version might have more must pulls. And then you also look at Yao Guang, for example, right? All of these Elation DPSs are incredibly reliant on Yao Guang. And unlike every previous archetype where you usually have a max of like 3 main DPSs releasing in a version for it, Elation seemingly is going to have possibly 5 if Nihilux ends up being a main DPS, meaning Yao Guang will be wanted as this core Elation support in 5 different Elation main DPS's teams. And then I bet you upcoming with Nihilux, or sorry, not Nihilux, with Pearl, who's likely either going to be an Elation sustain or at least an important Elation buffer, she's also probably going to be wanted as either an EMC replacement or a Huohuo replacement in the sustain slot for every single Elation team in the game. It feels like characters actually have much more importance in this version and have significantly higher pull value for the teams that they're clearly targeted towards, which, to be honest, feels nice, right? It feels nice because you know you're not going to get a Zhao Q situation where the character just gets power crept after less than a year of his release, despite him literally only having one team. The good thing about this is, yeah, you can make the argument Yao Guang is incredibly niche. I would not argue with that because she's mainly just for the Elation teams. But there's 5 DPSs who are then reliant on having Yao Guang on their team because of how good she is for this niche. And unlike Cyrene, who was released near the end of the version, which unfortunately shortened what could have been a reign of terror, if they had released her much earlier, her value would have been much higher. But Yao Guang, in comparison, was released on the first patch of Plan Arcadia, so even if you make the argument that she might possibly get power crept in Elation teams by future generalists, like some way midway through V5, the same way Emblade and Robin SP have taken the spot of some niche supports from version 3 in certain teams, the thing is, Yao Guang would already be 1.5 years old at this point, unlike Cyrene, who literally just got her first rerun banner is already not best in slot for basically half the Chrysos heirs at this point because they took too long to release her, right? So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you like the fact that it feels like characters feel more valuable? Do you not like it? I'm in the middle, right? I'm definitely getting hit with more FOMO in this version, I feel like, than any other version before. Definitely, I feel that. However, it's also giving characters significantly more value, and to be honest, it's also making me look forward to new characters and pulling and playing with new characters more than ever before. Love you all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. Peace out.